Anyways, so I did a whole ass intro, but for some reason I have to press another button on the dashboard in order to go live on YouTube. So I'm redoing the entire intro again. But yeah, what I was actually saying was I want to be more consistent with my streams as well. I know like these are a few ideas that I have that I want to use that as a main topic for stream. And some ideas are going to take more time because it's just that you need a lot of preparation. And it kind of is not like a preparation, it's more like exploration. And you'll see, I'll discuss it when the time comes. But yeah, I mean, I'm really happy streaming again. I want to be as consistent as possible because you don't have to be consistent like every day consistent, as long as you stream on the days that you said you're gonna stream. That's gonna help out the algorithm. So I'm really appreciative of all the support, even though there's not much of it, but I still appreciate all the support. I think now the chat might work. Oh yeah, now it's working. So when I am live and I press go live, that's when my stream chat starts. So yeah, does my kick work as well? I don't know much about that. Let's see. I guess I have to be live on YouTube fully in order for the chat to work, I think. Something like that. The chat to work. Let's see. I'm gonna put in some more emojis. It might work, it might not, but I mean, it's showing on my multi-chat, but it's not showing on the on-screen chat. I guess I have to add it in again. But yeah, nonetheless, today's main topic, of course, is... Wait. Yeah, I think that was good. So yeah, today's main topic, of course, is going to be about ranking dystopian futures. So before we switch to the tier list, I want to say that there are 14 different futures that I want to talk about. It's going to be based on, well, I'm just going to switch to it and then you can actually just figure out from there on. So here is the tier list. I put in some effort, right? I had to make this up all on my own. I just sourced some images. Courtesy Pinterest. I really appreciate that. I'm not going to be using this standalone. There's going to be content built on top of it, so please don't sue me. But yeah, I mean, I have 14 different futures that I'm going to be ranking from already here, everything in place for this, likely or a chance to happen and not happening. So that is what we're going to do. So before getting into that, I'm going to have a sip of water. Okay. Y'all gotta stay hydrated, folks. So yeah, I want to do this for the video as well. Okay, today we're gonna have a video on ranking dystopian futures based on how likely they are and how unlikely they're going to be. So yeah, if you didn't know, there are 14 different futures that I collected personally. I used a little bit of help. Don't ask me from where, but I am going to be talking about majority of them. It's There might be a few other futures that might be. Just let me know in the comments. But today, it's all about the dystopian futures because future isn't that bright for Earth and mankind. So, and womankind for people who are feminists. So, first things first, we have the big old global warming and big old sort of climate change, right? So, how likely is climate change? So, for now, I'm going to put it over here. We're going to talk about this. So, climate change, from what I've gathered, the urgency and the likeliness depends upon whom you ask. So, for example, if you ask someone on the far left, they're going to say that it's going to happen tomorrow. And for people who are far right, they're going to say, well, it's never going to happen. For far left, it's like over here, or these two, I think, for the people who lean left. And this, and rarely this, for people who lean right. So I'd say, to me, in my unbiased personal opinion, I'm going to put this in, I'd say, upper 3 or like lower 2, and I'll tell you why. So I'm going to put it here. I'd say lower everything in place for this, because to me, climate change is a very real thing. It's not a myth, because if you check the pollution levels, if you check the effects that it has, especially on water, and especially when you're in India, you for sure see that firsthand. Like, you see wildlife get affected because of pollution. You see higher and higher temperatures in the summers and colder temperatures in the winters. I think colder temperatures in the winters, but to me, the summers are hotter. Over time, summers have been hotter and hotter. They've always, like, recently, I'd say last year, this year, the summer was really hot. It was touching record numbers of heat. So I'd say there is credible evidence to this being a reality, because I'd say everything is in place for this, because you see slow and gradual changes, but they're apparent. Like, before, I think it's not that apparent, and for people who are like holed up in cities or people in America, I'd say it is not that apparent, because, well, you don't have to deal with the heat as much as India, because India is more subtropical. So I'd say heat changes are more amplified in the equatorial area, so where we reside in here in India. So heat, especially, I feel, to me, is my key factor to saying that, hey, everything is in place for this. I'd say, what else is kind of like a push? I'd say not push. Kind of like an evidence, What is evident in terms of global warming? I'd say air pollution, to me, that is also a big problem. Here in India, we do have air pollution. It's very harsh in bigger cities, but air pollution really does affect nature as whole, I'd say I haven't yet. I'm pretty sure the forest fires as well, like wildfires, especially in America, I think that too is caused because of the heat, because of the dry fauna, or the forest is dry. And from there on, like, when everything is dry, even a small match can probably start a huge fire. So that too, I'd say, is an indicator of global warming. So to me, everything is in place for this. upper likely to happen. Everything is in place for this. So ice caps melting and all, I'm not that familiar with that, but I do believe water scarcity and increased heat and wildfires are very real. So that is going to be my, like, that's going to be my judgment. So the next thing, I'm going to go in random order here. The next thing is, where is it? There should be one. Oh yeah. So here is the other one. And this is basically a world ridden with war. So this is like World War III scenario. And I believe this is higher than this. Because I believe this can occur faster than this. The ice caps melting and the tsunamis and stuff and global warming as a whole. I'd say a World War III is more likely in this day and age than it has ever been. Like, if you see how America is actually going forward, especially in terms of geopolitics, it's really harsh for America and it's really harsh for other countries, especially India, because we have to deal with bigger powers while making sure that they're not mad that we're getting close to their level of strength in terms of geopolitics. I mean, it's normal for a country like America to hold on to its power status in the world, and it would not like any more competitors, if you will, at least after China. After China, America doesn't want anyone else to join the league, but unfortunately, it has little to no say in this. I don't think majority of America wants this, but I'd say America, as in the government and the deep state, and the people who run things in America would not want. Well, I'll talk about this a bit later, but people who are in the position of steering the geopolitics of America, I think they would not like another power center to our eyes. So World War III is really, really close, in my personal opinion, than ever before, because apart from geopolitical tensions, there is a trade war going on. There are active wars that are bound to happen. There are active wars going on right now as we speak, namely Ukraine and Russia, and then you have Israel and Palestine. You also had a mini flashpoint here in India and Pakistan. That too could erupt in a bad, into a bad situation, especially when people start shaking their nuclear sabers. Everything, gets serious. So, I'd say a war is more likely than a global warming holocaust. And the reason I say that is because there is proper push toward green energy. Like, there are countries, especially in India, if you check out what India has been doing in terms of green energy, you'll figure out that they're actually growing very fast in terms of renewable energy, and it soon is going to change. I don't think vehicles as a whole are going to change. There is an allure for electrical vehicles, but I don't think the authentic vehicle, or like diesel vehicle or a gasoline vehicle, is gonna be replaced by electric. But I really do appreciate the world efforts in terms of green energy, switching to nuclear energy or switching to renewable energy, be it hydro or be it solar. All of that is great effort. And the next thing that I believe we should talk about, and I'd say the first it's already here tier is 1984 style surveillance, like constant surveillance, public safety, like forced public safety and things like that. I'd say that's already here because I make a case in terms of the UK, right? The UK already has many of these laws. America is already wrestling with AI cameras and AI surveillance. All of this is actually now a reality. I personally think that this is at least twice to thrice more likely than this. World War III it's possible, right? It's very possible for it to happen, especially with geopolitics and all. But this is already here. This has already occurred. The first steps into mass surveillance and intrusive surveillance, which disregards privacy. All of that is already started. Like internet security, internet like surveillance is already here. Like if you talk about Australia pushing more and more laws, like for example, like online ID systems for something to happen, especially the kids now, especially people who are, I think, 16 and below. They're not allowed to be on the internet, and I think you need an ID. I don't really know, but in the UK, you really do need an ID. You need to show your ID in order to, be able to access the internet. So, but yeah, it's already here, man. They're in plenty of places. Hey, Forsium, hi, bro. How are you? Thanks for dropping by, bro. Appreciate you. So, yeah, I'm just kind of having a stream where I'm talking about some dystopian futures. Like, I just put in some effort and figured out that there is a way that the world is going, especially in UK. How like people are being censored. Like if you say something on the internet, the government can arrest you for saying something bad on the internet in the UK at least. And like that actually pushed me to make this tier list because public safety, like under the guise of public safety, people are pushing, governments are pushing sort of online surveillance. You need ID to access internet, especially in the UK. So I'd say it's really sad because it's already here. Like we've already seen the first examples of like the UK being surveilled to the ground. Like if you're on the internet and you say something bad the government doesn't like, they can actually send police to your house and arrest you. And how do they do that? Well, you have to provide ID to access internet. I think like majority of the internet, I think you would need an ID to access. So yeah, these three are in their correct positions. The next one that I think is not happening or likely to happen, I'd say the great water drought, right? Where water is not available on the planet. I believe this has a low chance of happening. This has a little to no chance of happening because with the increase in technology and the increase in like the filtration systems of water and how things are being changed, especially in terms of usage and recycling of water, I believe that in the future, Earth can act, or people of Earth can actually make technology which can actually make seawater into potable water, So to me, that is not likely to occur. I'd say it is a little likely if it happens really fast, because right now we don't have that technology, but if you're talking about this occurring really quick in the near future, then it has a chance of happening. But in the further future, I don't think it's going to happen because We will have good filtration systems and recycling methods by then. And nobody wants to like mess with water, I'm pretty sure. Like even governments and corporate people would not like to mess with water because it's really essential. You would not want to mess with a fundamental right to access of water. If you mess with it, well, you're instantly driven to the ground because nobody would like to do business with you. Or if you're a government official, nobody would want you want to elect you into office. So I'd say that's not happening because people are not that evil to not allow water to be affordable even in the future, right? And at least keep it affordable even though it's in the future. So now that we got that out of the way, the next thing, which I believe is likely the third tier, I'd say likely or not likely. Well, I'd say this dystopian future is likely because, well, if you didn't know, this picture basically represents people being turned into software and them living in a server. So in the future, maybe like just like how Soma works, like if you've played the game Soma, in that you can actually copy or like transfer your conscience into a computer, into a robot, and live your life that way. I'd say living in a server, I believe, is likely because people would like to be protagonists in their own life, right? Well, everyone lives a life. Everyone would like to be rich or famous, or everyone would like to live in some sort of, a fantasy world, or maybe a video game world. Maybe they would like to be really rich, or maybe they want to be really famous, or they want to be really talented. You could be anything, anywhere, anytime in that server. And if that is available to the public, I think many people would choose that because nobody wants to deal with worldly problems, right? It's again about the Matrix red pill, blue pill. Like, if the Matrix keepers themselves came to you, like Mr. Anderson, Mr. Anderson comes to you and says, well, we're gonna make sure that you have an amazing life. Reality is not that great for you, but this place that we're giving you, I'm gonna make sure that you're having an amazing life. You'll be rich, you'll be famous, you'll have the best girlfriend, you'll have the best family, you'll have the best place to stay, you'll die like normally, you'll have a really peaceful life, and you'll die of old age. So all of that, if it was provided, I'm pretty sure 90%, at least 85% of people would say, well, let me stay in the Matrix. I don't want to deal with worldly issues. I don't want to deal with like uncertainty when you're for certain giving me the opportunity to have a peaceful and amazing life. I think that is more in demand in people, at least nowadays, especially if you see people online, they're really miserable. So everyone would like to be rich. Well, you don't have to work that hard as long as you live in a server. You could be the richest person in the world, in your own server. You could be the most handsome, ripped, famous person in the world in your own server. So I'd say it is likely to happen. Technology could possibly transfer consciousness. I'm pretty sure this is going to be really far in the future. But if people were living in servers, I think majority of the people would. The person who probably makes this technology could be the richest person in the world, but not be able to spend anything, because there's nothing to spend. Like like people could be paying real money, but they would no longer be, in this, like in the real world. So the economy is going to go down in the real world. The rich person is going to have lots of money, but I'm pretty sure his money is going to go down in the dumps because nobody is going to be in the real world. Everyone is in the fake world. So that would be a real weird future, but I'm pretty sure there's a chance of this happening because especially people who want to be like the protagonist, as I said, in their own story, in their own world, would like to be that, you know. Lots of people would like to subscribe to that. So it's having a decent chance of happening. So now the next one, I believe, is likely is I believe likely to happen is human extinction because of any reason, you know, just plain human extinction. I'd say not nuclear holocaust, I'd say more like a like a virus outbreak, just like COVID. I'd say if there's a future where instead of nuclear weapons, people were using or governments were using bioweapons, I think this could be likely. We've already seen that in 2020. You know, you could say it's a weaponized biovirus. And I believe if that exists, I'm pretty sure people would like to engineer something similar but have a different structure or be even more resistant. I'm pretty sure it's possible to create that and cultivate that virus or that bacteria, whatever microbe. You know, bio weaponry is really, really not fake. You know, it's really real. To me at least, you know, I believe this is likely, but I'm not saying this has a high chance of happening because, especially after COVID, governments now understand the risks of having a biological warfare because once you open that, it is really similar to a nuclear bomb. If you think about it, if you consider the COVID-19 virus to be a nuclear warhead, you'd realize that this nuclear warhead was deployed and, you know, used on countries almost all countries, and major damage was done. Like if you just switch this with a nuclear weapon, everyone would be like really running for their lives or be really paranoid because this is basically warfare which is not really nuclear, but it has similar potency and it has similar effects, but it might just be a little unpredictable and a little slow, you know. So I'd say it has a chance of happening, but I'm also pretty sure that the governments and the people that use biological weapons know the risks and they're not going to use it because COVID was not a profitable. I'm pretty sure it was not even profitable for some medical companies. It was profitable, but for majority of the people, I don't think it was profitable. So let's move on to the other one. So the next one, I believe, is kind of similar, and I'd say it is lesser. Is an eternal pandemic. So something like this biological warfare, except people did not die. They adapted and now they have to live in an eternal pandemic because the virus or the biological weapon, whatever, was really adaptive and probably is really resistant to any sort of medication. I'd say a long, almost permanent pandemic is likely. The reason I'm putting it up here and not here is because I do think that people would be able to find a cure, but at the same time, if the bioweapon is really well made, especially in the future, I'd say this is likely to happen. Now, I've already talked about pandemic and how it works and how I think about it. So I'm not going to get into that again. So the next thing I believe, which could be like not happening, is, well, I can't say for sure. Like, I'd say this, where like people are wanting to be in VR forever. I don't think that's not going to happen. Because if this was true, if people wanted to be in VR forever, they'd rather be in a server, you know? They'd rather take their consciousness and transfer it to a server and live there. This, I believe, could be a step to this server future, but I believe people who live in VR would have to tend to their real life problems, have to tend to their real life issues like health, their wages, food, drink, everything. Like all of that, I believe, would still be an issue for people. So I don't think it's going to happen because it's not going to stay there for long. If people wanted to be in VR in their own worlds, I'm pretty sure they would just shift to a server and live that way. Unless they want to socialize, then I'm pretty sure in server world, people would still be able to socialize with other real people and, visit each other's worlds and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that could happen. So the next future, which I believe is not happening, is the robot takeover. I personally think that the robot takeover is not gonna happen. Or maybe if you think of it as an AI takeover, then I'd say it is likely to happen. Is everything in place for an AI takeover? I don't think so, because people already understand the dangers of AI hallucinating and things like that. There's a huge case made for people who are developing AI and from people who are developing AI, talking about how you should make sure that the AI is under control. It does not violate any sort of programming. I believe if AI takeover is likely to happen, but robot takeover, I don't think so. Like robots going rogue, that goes hand in hand with AI. So I'd say it's likely. So yeah, robot takeover, which is like connected to one singular thing. No, I don't think that's going to happen because nobody's going to give access to a singular AI consciousness. And that singular AI consciousness is not going to get access to every single weapon or even a manufacturing plant for that matter. So I'd say that's likely, but it's not that likely. The next thing I believe is the world isolation. The world isolation is where people are forever going to be alone and indoors and never want to go out and socialize. People will not want to socialize face to face. Everything which needs like transfer of food, transfer of water, this, that, and the other will be handled with AI robots or robots in general. Or even VR robots, who knows? But I'm pretty sure this is not likely to happen because I believe it doesn't matter how isolated the world gets, no matter how many pandemics it goes through. I'm pretty sure by the end of the decade or whenever this takes place, the number of isolated people is going to grow, but it's never going to stay that way. I believe people are social creatures at the end. They want to physically be present in the presence of another human being. They would like to meet, talk, and hear, and basically share space with a real human being. It doesn't matter how isolated the world gets or how isolated the culture is, or the culture of isolation, however prevalent, it is still going to be necessary for people to at least meet a few people here and there. They won't be fully isolated. I'm pretty sure the isolation culture is going to be like the major part, but I'm pretty sure that people would still want to go outside, you know. People would still want to explore the world and experience the world for themselves. So this is not going to happen. I believe maybe few, but majority of the people would still want to live in the real world and feel and experience in person. So the next thing that I believe is likely to happen is a nuclear holocaust. You know, nuclear war is something, if you did not know, if you're watching from another country that is not India, if you do not know, I would like you to just search, you know, what the Pakistani, I think army general or a government official said about if Pakistan were to be attacked nuclearly or were under threat in terms of its existence, what Pakistan would do with its nuclear warheads. Like, if you just go check that out, like what he said, basically the TLDR is, I think a government official in Pakistan said that if the existence of Pakistan was threatened, its nukes will fly all over the world. You know, it's basically going to say if Pakistan doesn't exist, the world doesn't get to exist, and it's just going to press the big red button, which is going to basically send nukes all across the world. You can go check that video out if you don't believe me, but nuclear holocaust is a very real thing, you know, and there are times when governments and people of that country or of that government are not going to back down, because not because of ego, but I believe it's dignity. Like, every country has its own dignity. Some countries don't care about it. Most countries do. So dignity is really important, especially in terms of its sovereignty. If sovereignty is threatened, if nukes are first use, then I'm pretty sure the world is going to see a nuclear holocaust. Especially with how things are going on with Russia, with how things are going on with USA and Russia, with how things are going on. But I'm pretty sure Russia is not going to be like, you could hate Putin, but I'm sure that he is not dumb, you know. He could rattle his saber and say, I have the big red button, I have the dead man's hand, or whatever. But I'm pretty sure that he would not use it first. It doesn't matter how threatened or how close America or its allies, NATO allies, are close to its border. It's not going to use nuclear unless it's a very dire situation, maybe then, or if nukes are used first against it. So preemptive strikes, well, dead man's hand is that what it's called? I don't remember. But yeah, it's very real. It's very real. Basically, if you didn't know, Russia has a system in place, I believe. It's called the dead man's hand, where if nukes are preemptively fired and hit Russia, let's say Russia was preemptively struck with nukes, several nukes, which removed all government officials and army officials, there would be kind of like sensors all across Russia, and like sensors and surveillance all across Russia, which are kind of making sure that there's no radiation, there's no nukes being dropped on Russia. The minute that happens, and there's no stoppage, I think what the system is that it will automatically release and fire all nuclear missiles. So that is the that dead man's hand or something like that. I'm not too sure, but I'm not even sure if it's true, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure it is 50-50. But yeah, we'll move on to the next one, which is robotic civilization, or let's say cybernetic civilization. I'd say this is likely to happen? Or should I put it here? I'd say everything is in place for this because, to be honest, especially in a capitalist society, if you could just like make your body into a hunk of metal, have the same touch sensitivity, have the same feelings, have the same emotions and stuff like that, and you could convert your body fully into a cybernetic person, I'd say people would do that because this world would potentially allow humans to live for thousands of years as long as they can afford to have parts replacements and things like that and regular maintenance. They could potentially keep the brain intact. I don't know for a fact how that's going to work, but I'm pretty sure it's similar to the server, but you might have transferred your consciousness to your robot body and you could live forever. You could, safeguard your assets forever. But I'm pretty sure people would eventually be like, I'm sure 100 years was not enough, but I'll be fine with 250, And after 250 years, people would be tired and would like to die, So I'd say that everything is in place for that future, because especially with how Neuralink is going on, I'd say that is an obvious path that people can take, where they rid themselves of risks of cancer, rid themselves of diseases, rid themselves of time constraints. They could just survive forever and live forever. They don't need to, give a shit about how they look because they can just order a good looking piece of hardware. So I'd say that is very likely to happen, especially if it's going to start first in bionics for helping people with disabilities, people who've lost limbs. I'd say it's going to help them first, but eventually people would like to dip their hands into that technology and use it for plain just survival and things like that. So yeah, I'd say that's very likely. But last two, to me, I'd say this basically means corporate nations or corporate run nations. And I believe that this is really likely to happen, especially if a corporation, I'd say you could even put it here, and I'll tell you why. You could even put this here. Corporate nations run by corporations, and government is just a secondary thing, or government could have been toppled as well in that world. So in the future, I believe it depends on how you see it. This could be this tier where everything's in place for this, or this could be already your tier. And I'll tell you why. Corporate nations, I believe, is pretty much a reality if you think about South Korea. Samsung is one of the biggest corporations, and it has a huge share of South Korea's GDP. Like, people who have been like CEOs or maybe even owners of Samsung, they were allowed to get away with like really bad things. Like I think some Samsung's like owner or CEO, I don't know who it was, but he had committed a crime of, I think, bribing election officials or meddling with the elections. I don't know which one was it. And he was basically arrested, and then he was released later because the judge, or like the people who were responsible for his release, said that South Korea needs that CEO, and hence we're releasing it. That's how much power Samsung has on South Korea. Like, South Korea is like run by Samsung. I believe that. Samsung just does not just make phones; it makes a bunch of things. It makes electrical appliances. It makes, I think it even makes ships. If I'm not wrong, it also makes ships. So I'm pretty sure they even are in the military, and they're also working on AI chips and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd say corporate run countries, I'd say they're already here. If you take South Korea's example, but I'm pretty sure it's a rare case, but if a world is run like that, could be possible. You know, we cannot say for sure, but I'd say it's either here, top, um, top, second tier, or already here tier. I'd say top second because it's really likely, are already here with. I just can't make a decision, but I just put it here because South Korea is already a country run by corporate Samsung. So, and the last but not the least, kind of like an Illuminati, but families that run the world, I think it's already here. Families which run the world, I believe it's already here. If you've not known, like, if you just think about it, I believe there are some conspiracy theories, but there are also some legitimate proof. The biggest question that was asked in terms of this world was the massive amounts of wealth which came out of colonial colonies. Where did it all go? Because if you look at the colonial powers right now, where did all the money go? And you realize the money that came out of there, well, most people would say, well, it went to the West. You know, European Union's prosperity did come from colonial money, and America and the UK and France, like their prosperity came from colonial money. But if you look at the sheer amount of value that was extracted from colonies like Africa, India, and other places, it was in the trillions of dollars, and this was that times money. Trillions of dollars in that times money is basically like what, 20 times, maybe 20 times that. So if 1 trillion back then is basically 20 right now, 20 trillion. So I'm not talking about billions, I'm talking about trillions. So all of that wealth, where did it go? I'd say it went to some families that want to safeguard their wealth. And in my conspiracy theory mind, I'd say there are plenty of places that I'd say are, I'd say a mix of these two. So this, I'd say already here, which is corporate run countries. If you look at the city of London, right? If most people don't know about this, but in London, UK, you have a 1 square mile of a sovereign kind of place, which is separate from the UK, but it is in the UK in London. So within London, there's a 1 square mile area, which is called the City of London, which has its own voting system, which is separate from the country. It has its own it has its own mayor, which is not part of the mayor of the UK. They have say in UK's government policies and stuff like that. They have their presence in the UK Parliament, but the King of the UK cannot step into the City of London without the permission of the mayor of the City of London. The second thing, which is really kind of cool but scary, I'd say, is that the voting power in City of London is held by the corporations that are in there. So some people that live in the City of London, they do have voting rights, but majority of the voting points lie with the corporations because The more people a corporation has, the more voting points that corporation has. So corporations can elect a mayor. Corporations have more voting power than the local people, and they basically elect the mayor of the City of London that is not under UK's jurisdiction, but is in London. The City of London inside the City of London. I'd say that is pretty sick, pretty cool, but also it's kind of scary if you think about it, because it's basically run by corporations. And families, I'm pretty sure, before I get into families, there's another fun fact about the City of London. And that 1 square mile of the City of London inside the City of London has every single bank. There's basically every single bank has an office in the City of London. Every single bank in the world has an office in the City of London. And that is crazy. If you think about it, that is crazy. And I'm not saying that there are families that basically went into the City of London and they sort of put up walls and like escaped into there. But if you think about it, you have, if just go and Google what cool facts about the City of London, you'll know plenty of facts about this. And it's already crazy that a place like this exists. But the mayor of the City of London has around 80 to 85 business trips around the world. I'm talking about the mayor of the City of London, who has no say or no attachment to the government of the UK, right? The government of UK, he has no attachments to that. So why is he the representative of a small 1 square mile area called the City of London, goes on business trips all around the world 80 times a year? Why? Is it the banks? Well, they just have the office there, but why do they have the office? Why does he need to fly around the world? He's just a small, sovereign, landlocked region. Why does he have to go? Something to think about, really. So I'd say the families, I'd say they're already here. I'd say if you think about BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, I'd say all of these big companies, they manage the finances of these families. And I believe that they already do exist. I'm not saying that they're the Illuminati. I'd say that these are colonial powers that got dirty money, and that to huge amounts of dirty money. And they would like to be rich, and they would like to keep that dirty money. So they cannot announce their wealth. They cannot flaunt their wealth. They would like to keep that a secret. And they would like to make sure, like, if you have trillions of dollars, under your jurisdiction, you basically have like, your money is basically influence. Your money unfortunately has stake in almost all countries. So if you want to keep that wealth, if you want to make sure that you can use that wealth, keep that wealth, maybe even grow a bit of that wealth, you need to invest it. And when you invest that much amount of money, you basically are buying control in various parts of the world. And I personally believe that this already exists. I personally believe that there are families that have been using that dirty money for generations, that have a hold of that dirty money for generations, that they kind of extracted out of the colonies, extracted out of that time's money, that time's value. And they want to have influence and they want to have control, not because they want to control the world, but because they want to make sure that their money, which is an enormous amount of money, they want to just safeguard that. And they want to just increase that, maybe invest that and increase their value. And that's that. When you want to increase that much amount of value into something even more vast, you unintentionally have to just deal with countries and deal with huge countries. And you can't even deal in the front, you have to deal in the back. And I'd say that is my tier list of this entire dystopian futures list. So, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to just put your own tier list on Twitter or something like that, you can just use this code or whatever. And I've posted this, so you can just use this and kind of, you could post it. I'm going to be posting this on my X account or Twitter, if you still think that it's Twitter, but I'm fine with Twitter. But yeah, I'm going to be posting this on Twitter, and if you want to disagree with me in the comment section, you can very well do that. So for the YouTube viewers, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys showing up, and I'm really sorry this is how things are turning out, but I'd say I want to do things somewhat my way. So thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time. So yeah, well, that's that, It's a really cool conversation to have, because there are plenty of ways the world can go, and it's hard not to think about, especially when you see various patterns, various interests, various points of views kind of propagate themselves. So I'd say that's that. And if you didn't know about City of London, you have to check it out. It's like a whole project, it's a whole rabbit hole of like cool things that you can figure out. I personally believe that there are families in the City of London, or like places that are like City of London that we just don't know about. And there are families that are working together to keep their wealth safe, and maybe even grow their wealth, or even just maintain their status as one of the secret elites of the world. I personally am happy with this, I have not seen anyone make a tier list on dystopian futures. I don't think it is that interesting of a topic, but it's interesting to me, so I made a whole stream on this. But yeah. So if I had to say, yeah, the top 3 are definitely already afoot. I'm pretty sure the future is going to be an amalgamation of the top 3, maybe these 2 as well. The top 5, I think, is where the world is going to end up at. But oh well, we cannot say for sure. I have little hope for the good in the people of the world, but I'm pretty sure there are a few people who will have huge amounts of influence who are good people, Because if you're bad, your influence is gonna eventually fade. But if you're a good person who's been good their entire time that they were preaching, the entire time they were rallying people, if they're generally good, they're gonna be eternal. So yeah, I'd say in the end, good will eventually prevail. There is going to be a huge bad that is going to happen, but I believe that there should be a good at the other end of the tunnel, because if it's all bad, even the bad guys would not like to live in the world. So, oh well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for dropping by. I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting me, bro. I see your likes. I see your appreciation. And thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. So yeah, I'll try to stream more. I'll try to put out more streams. I have a whole list of different stream ideas, kind of like this. If it's gonna work, it's gonna work. If it's not gonna work, it's not gonna work. But it's gonna be fun talking about all of this. I've been yapping for almost an hour straight, but I don't mind. I don't mind. Are there any? I've not seen any. I wish I could see the kick chat. Yeah. Well, I haven't gotten any chats, but there are a couple viewers. I really appreciate you guys. If you're watching, thank you. Thank you for watching, man. And I know. Well, to people that are watching on Kick, thank you. Appreciate you. Variable might be. If you're here to say hi, would appreciate that. I'm watching Kick Chat right now. If you're here, just put out an emoji. Just so that I know that I could, talk to you guys. So, but yeah, thank you for the 2 viewers. I'm pretty sure one is me and the other might also be me. So, or maybe just Stream Elements or things like that. So, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys for dropping by. If you dropped by in the middle, I'm really sorry that I haven't been posting much lately. I'm kind of in a rut right now. So yeah, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching me on Kick. Thank you for dropping by on YouTube. Bye bye.